and it was just like garbage on a platter. Like, it put me into the pits of despair. Hey everyone, it's Rachel over at Moonlight Library. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. If you're not new here, welcome back to my channel, Moonlight Library. Yes. Here's my cat. This is LPC. So, you're here today for my June wrap-up. I've read 10 books this month. Most of them were graphic novels because I'm in a graphic novel course this semester for my master's in library science. So let's get started with a 1-star. I'm gonna go in order this month because I feel like it and that's how I wrote it, and I was just like, 10 books, there's so many to go through. So here we go. The first one is Twilight, the graphic novel. That's obviously Stephanie Meyer. And wow, it only covers half of Twilight, the first book, Twilight, and it was not good. I'm not saying that I probably wouldn't maybe enjoy Twilight if I read it again. I might not, because I didn't enjoy Midnight Sun or whatever, and I like only got halfway through and I was like, I can't read this fucking book. But the graphic novel was horrible. It was like, let's make everyone firstly white. Let's just have scenes that are 2 panels long that make almost no sense. Let's take out any relationship you might have with a character. Anything. Just make it horrible. How do you make Twilight horrible? Turn it into a graphic novel. That's how you do it. Because it was a 1-star. It was probably one of the worst graphic novels I've read in years. No, okay, there's another one coming up that's maybe par for the course, you know? That's how I feel. Next, I read The Cabin at the End of the World. I keep wanting to say Cabin in the Woods. Great movie, great movie. But this is by Paul Tremblay. This follows, I didn't tell you what Twilight was about, but I think most of us know. If you don't, then I think you're just not paying attention to pop culture. So, Cabin at the End of the World. Let's actually describe this one. This is a family, 2 fathers and a daughter that go out to a cabin to stay, and knock knock, there's a stranger at the door sort of situation, and he has some friends, and they're basically like one of you has to die to save the world. And it's creepy, it's weird. I don't know if I gave away some of the premise. I think that's an important part of the premise, right? Yeah, I feel like they say it on the back, so we're just gonna go with yes on that. It was pretty good overall. Just the storyline, it kept you mildly engaged. They did bring up Steven Universe a couple times, which I love. So, you know, we're always good with a book that brings up Steven Universe. Thank you. But also it's a tall paperback, so how do we feel about that? Pretty bad. It's a horror novel, obviously, and it's keeps you guessing throughout basically the whole thing, where you're like, wait, is this real? Is this not real? I don't know what's going on. And it's kind of fun, but at the end, I gave it 3 stars because it wasn't fun enough. It wasn't scary fun enough. I don't know what my cat's doing. Next book. Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This was 100% the only 5-star book that I had this month, because it was fucking amazing. And it is the 3rd book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. So if you haven't read any of them and you like romance, you like a little smut, then maybe you should pick them up, because I was just fucking bawling over this book. Not in like the sense that I cried, but just like, I love it. We follow Eve Brown. She's the youngest of the 3, and she's a little bit flighty. She's switching jobs all the time, and her parents are like, we're gonna cut you off unless you find a job and keep it for a year. And she ends up going on a road trip by herself, you know, just like, meh. And she finds this inn that has a steamy hot mate at it. So it's a good one. It's probably, I would say Danny Brown, the second one, was my favorite, but this one's probably my second favorite. So sorry, Chloe Brown. Like, I love that one, but it's like a wine. It gets better with age. So 5-star to that. If you haven't and you like romance, friggin' read it. Next book is American Born Chinese by Jean Luen Yang. So this one is 3 different kind of stories that are merged together. You're following, it's a graphic novel, and you're following the main character who is younger and he's figuring out his place in the world. He is Chinese and he feels like an outsider at his school until this other boy comes in who's also Chinese, and he's like, that one's more Chinese than me though, you know, but friendships bond. And the other one is the Monkey King that you're following, and this is more of a fantasy godlike scenario where he's trying to prove himself and like show that he is more than what people see him as. And the third one is Danny, and he is a character that is embarrassed by his very stereotypically Chinese cousin that he's like, how am I even related to this guy? Like, who the fuck is this guy? And it is weird. I don't know. I feel like you just have to read it. The way it merges and the way that it kind of talks about what it feels like to be the other and what the other is very interesting. So definitely give that one a read. Number 5 is Banned Book Club by Kim Hyun Sook. And this one follows a girl, I think this is like memoir style. So it follows her as she is in Korea and they're under this Aryanism regime. And so there's a lot of things that their culture, their government is not allowing them to access, such as books and stuff. So she ends up in this book club and everything's kind of going against what she's been taught, but she starts to learn about the world and questioning and learning about what is being kept from her and how her society is controlling like the media and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. It's enlightening on South Korean culture, things that I didn't really realize were happening after the Korean War in South Korea. So it was like an enlightening one. It was a good graphic novel. Overall, I was just like, this one, yes. It got 4 stars for me. So number 6 is Nimona by Noel Stevenson. And I've read it before, but for my class I had to read an adaptation of something. So I listened to the audiobook for Nimona, which is kind of weird. It's like a fantasy graphic novel that is just like kind of quirky and kind of strange and has these like lovable villain characters. But the graphic novel, like the audiobook version, it's like a play almost. I've never listened to an audiobook of a graphic novel, but I was like, I'm gonna do it because this is weird and this is strange. And trust me, it was weird and strange. Like, that's how I felt about it. Like, I was like, this is a very strange experience. It just is. So I don't know if I'd recommend it. Maybe to certain types of readers this would be a good thing, but overall I think that I still gave it a 5 because I gave it a 5 for the last time. I just didn't really rate the audiobook version because it was such a strange experience. Yes. Number 7, The End of the Fucking World by Charles Forsman. And wow, it was the end of my fucking world because it was fucking horrible. Yes, I did not like this book. This is a graphic novel. He also did I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Kind of funny because these were both made into Netflix shows, and both the shows are pretty enjoyable. I'm Thinking of Ending Things was like so fucking good, the show. I didn't like that graphic novel, and yet I said, I will still read The End of the Fucking World. I'm still gonna do it. We're just gonna see how it goes. Well, it turns out I fucking hated it. It got 1 star, and it was just like garbage on a platter. Like, it put me into the pits of despair, just like Ghost World, but in the worst way. Like, I don't want to follow these horrible fucking people for 1 more second. Like, I have no interest in your goddamn rotten lives where you're like doing horrible things, like killing people and like maiming. It was just like, no, just don't read it. I don't know. If you liked it, Tell me why. Just tell me why. Tell me what you read in this and you were like, wow, that's so good. Because I don't fucking see it. I don't see it. I'll never see it. I should stop picking up his books because I really don't like them. So that's enough on that. 1 star. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And so I finally got around to reading this one. I have a vlog about it. And, you know, I actually kind of enjoyed it. It took me a while to read. But at the same time, I had a lot of fun with the characters. Obviously, like the love story, the relationship that was happening in here, I was just not fucking into. But once they got to the end portion, this is like a fantasy book that follows this girl who is living in like the area of the fantasy land with mortals, and then she gets basically like, she kills a fairy and she has to go live with the fairies, but there's a lot of shit going on with the fairies. If you don't know what this is about, that's how I'm gonna describe it. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the ending though. Like the last kind of arc of the story really got me because it was kind of puzzle-like, mystery-like, like solve these things, questy, and that really intrigues me. As soon as you put a riddle into a book, I'm like, this is the book for me. Like, you gave me a fucking riddle. I love riddles. So I gave it 4 stars for the riddle. I'll read the rest of the series. And that's Akotar for you from my lips. If you want to know more, watch my reading vlog. Next, my 9th book was The Ruins by Scott Smith. This one is about a group of people in Mexico, I think, that they're going to find someone who went missing in these ruins, and then some stuff goes wrong. It's very like body horror. They're stuck at this place and it's creepy and it's gross, and it was an interesting book, but altogether it kind of just flew by in this way of like, I didn't really care, but also like, ew. So it got a 3 because it was like, you know, it was good. It just wasn't my favorite thing that I've read. And that's how I felt about it, and that's how I still feel about it. So lastly, number 10, Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enriquez. And this is a short story collection. She's Argentinian, so it all takes place in Argentina. But the short stories almost read exactly the same, every single one of them at a point. It's a horror compilation of short stories by her, and it's like never scary. There's some body horror that happens. There's like, if you don't want to hear about brutal things, like trigger warning, anything to do with children, just any horrible thing, or like rape or just like abuse towards women, then you might not want to read this book. It's kind of a commentary on those things in Argentina, I guess. There's like a translator's note in the back that kind of talks about that. But if you have a weak stomach, no. If you want to be scared though, no, it's also not scary. It's just kind of like, ooh. Overall, every story read the same. The first couple were good, but at the same time, if she mixed it up, I don't know if I would have thought those were good. I would have thought whatever she put at the beginning was good because they felt original at first, and then they stopped being original as you went along. They become redundant and almost unmemorable. Yep, so that got 2 stars. That's pretty bad. Overall, this month was kind of not a great month for reading for me. 1 5-star. Usually I get more than that. Good thing I'm reading like a book that I'm pretty sure is gonna be a 5-star right now. So I'm gonna get back to that book and not harp on these books. Once again, this is Moonlight Library, and go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Bye.